Hi everyone, I'm going to talk about push hands, which is used in Tai Chi as well as in some of the internal martial arts. In our system, it plays a very important role, and there are different stages. So when you start training generally, you start to build up your own strength and power through practices such as the forms. In the martial arts, it's called the different types of forms like the chop form and the bong chuan, a few other forms that are very important for helping to develop your body and your power. They also contribute to something called ward off. So ward off is essential for push hands practice. In Tai Chi you have different forms as well, similar actually in terms of developing your strength of your whole body, and then you need to start to understand this sort of practice or how you use your different forms with a partner. Push hands is the way that we link all of this together. So in our system, the push hands is really important. The further you go, the more you need it. And there are different stages. So the initial ones will be things like single hand, double hand, and then spiraling arms. So spiraling arms is something that most people probably haven't seen before. It's not often taught. I'll show you first of all just what the single hand looks like, just as a demonstration first, just showing you this. So you can imagine your partner's pushing against your arm, so this is called ward off, and your body's turning away from their force and you're redirecting their force. Then you use the other hand to engage their arm, so this becomes part of the two-hand push. So you can see this is called the roll back, and then this is pushing forwards. Usually it's done also on this side, so it's sort of like the more awkward side that you practice on. So you can see how it's used this way. The double hand, the spiraling one, this is one version of it. So you can see how the arms are twisting and spiraling all the time. So these are used in different ways to dissolve your partner's strength or force, and to connect, to develop things like the sensitivity, awareness, and many other different qualities that we need. They're progressively more challenging. So I'll demonstrate a few with Fontaine, and then I'll explain a little bit more about it. So the single one, this is the first one, which you've probably seen many times if you've followed what we teach. But it's very important just to get people to organize their bodies, to use their waist, to connect with the leg. Then we go to the double. So one hand pushing on the elbow, the other on the wrist. So as Fontaine comes towards me, I'm leading a force away, and then I return with a push. So the push is coming through the leg, not so much the arm. And this is the deceptive thing with push hands. Most people don't see how it's from the ground rather than from the upper body. The upper body helps, but it's not the main source of the power. The circling arm, we'll demonstrate just one side first. So if I'm doing a push type movement or a chopping movement toward Fontaine, she will neutralize with a hook, the hooking motion. So the hooking motion also draws my arm back. She's following the force, and then she comes around and brings her arm up as a kind of strike. So I'll demonstrate this for a second. So if I'm doing that, this is the hook. This part should also have power. Now the hardest thing in the beginning is to make your movement continuous and smooth. This is what we start to refer to as ward off, training the ward off. The ward off in the beginning tends to be a little bit more angular. So there's a straight kind of force, and then you're drawing back, and that's easier to do. But once you start to engage in a more, especially in freestyle, where forces are changing all the time, if you don't have this ability, you'll have gaps. And when you have gaps, your partner can take advantage of you. So it's really important to be able to keep a smooth connection no matter what your partner does. So there are two clips that I've chosen. One is with John-Pierre, who's been training with me for quite a while, and you'll see us doing our push hands together. So because we've both been training for a while, it doesn't look like much is happening. Especially when I'm practicing nowadays, it tends to look quite relaxed, but there is power there all the time. And the same with John, there's plenty of power there. The next one is another student of mine who hasn't been training for as long, but he does have a good foundation and background in all of this stuff. So what you'll notice then is the difference between John-Pierre and myself. And you'll see how it's much more challenging for the other person to keep their ward off there all the time. Eventually, they will get better. But at this stage, it's more obvious to see, oh, there is the ward off and the power of the arms is quite strong. So we talk about ultimately like the arms are being like two pythons, two snakes. They're able to weave and twist and turn. They have weight, but they're relaxed. Another analogy would be like a chain. So there's heaviness there all the time, but it can change, it can adapt to whatever pressure is applied to it. So it's probably good just to have a look and just see what these more advanced practices are about. Thanks, everyone.